Now, you've probably seen videos of lasers slicing through metal like butter, or you might have wondered why you've been warned never ever ever to point a laser pointer or any laser at an airplane. But here's the wild thing. Laser light and the light from your phone or any other light source are made of the same exact stuff, photons. Yet, a laser can somehow cut through steel, and the light from a phone can't even warm your face. So the question then is, what makes a laser so special? And how exactly can lasers and laser light burn through stuff? Now let's start at the beginning with what's actually happening when a laser actually burns something. You might think it's some kind of sci-fi energy beam or a special kind of light, somehow different than the light you see around you. Really, they're the same sort of thing made of photons, but the truth is beautifully simple. It's basically coming down to heat. So when laser light hits a material, the photons, which are those tiny packets of energy that carries the energy and the information in a light beam, they get absorbed by the atoms in that material. Now, this absorption by the atoms makes the electrons in the outer shell of those atoms jump up physically to a higher energy level. And when they fall back down into a lower energy state, that energy gets released as heat. Now, if you do this with enough photons hitting the same exact tiny spot, then you can heat that material up to thousands of degrees in just a few seconds. Now, here's where it gets really cool, or hot, however you want to look at it. The light from a regular LED, like a red LED or something, does exactly the same thing. It's transferring energy to whatever it hits out in the environment. So the question is, why doesn't your desk lamp melt your homework? And the answer basically comes down to a concept called power density. Power density, it's the central idea here. It's measured in a unit called watts per square meter. Now, an analogy really helps here. I want you to imagine a balloon. You're trying to pop a balloon, make it pop and explode. Now, you can press on it with your whole hand, spreading the force of the squeezing of your hand over a very large area on the balloon. Basically, nothing happens unless you just overwhelm it. But what if you take the same force and concentrate it by poking a needle in one small location? Basically, you're concentrating the same force, but now over a tiny, tiny point, the tip of the needle, and then pop. Exactly that's what's happening with lasers. It's a process of concentrating the power over a very small cross-sectional area. Now consider a 100-watt light bulb that spreads its energy all over the entire room in all directions. A 100-watt laser would focus all of that same power into a beam thinner than a human hair. So when you concentrate those very same 100 watts into a tiny spot, which is just like 1 square millimeter across, you're hitting it with 100 million watts per square meter. And when you get the power density that high, that's enough power density to vaporize most materials instantly. So let's think about this a little bit more. The unit of watt has a very specific meaning. It's joules per second. It's literally energy across some unit time, or energy per unit time, right? And when we have a 100-watt light bulb, that is how many joules per second is being emanated by that filament. Now, in a light bulb, it's emanating in all directions. The 100 watts you can think of as a fluid almost that's spreading out in all directions. So let's say that we have a room that's a spherical room surrounding the light bulb. And let's say the surface area of the inside of that, surface of the room that it's hitting is, let's call it 100 square meters. So you have 100 watts that's spreading out and hitting a surface area, intersecting a surface area of 100 square meters. 100 watts, 100 square meters. If you divide those numbers, then you get a unit called watts per square meter. Now, the watts per square meter is what actually matters when you're thinking about, is the laser going to burn through something? It's measuring how much power is concentrated over a square meter, a unit area. So if you have 100 watts spreading out and intersecting with 100 square meters, 100 divided by 100 is just 1. So the power density is 1 watt per square meter. That means that on average, if you mark off a square meter on the inside of that room, literally with tape, then on average you would have a watt intersecting every square meter of the room. And over the entirety of the 100 square meters it's hitting, all 100 watts is going to be hitting all 100 square meters, on average 1 watt per square meter. That's what it means. Now, take an alternative. Let's say you take the same 100 watts, but this time you don't have it flying out in all directions like a light bulb. Let's say you concentrate it into a beam, like a laser pointer. Hopefully you can see that. So now the beam is not spreading out and intersecting a large area over, across a room or an enclosure. Now all 100 watts is concentrated in a very small cross-sectional area because the beam is coming and only hitting right here. So now, to get the same calculation, you take the same 100 watts, but you divide it by whatever the cross-sectional area of that beam is down where it hits my hand. So to make the calculation easier, let's pretend that I have some light source, 100 watts, and it's shining onto a 1 square meter boundary or intersection. In other words, a very thick laser, let's call it, 100 watts, but intersecting over only 1 square meter. What's the power density there? It's 100 watts, divided by 1 square meter. So it's 100 watts per square meter. So you see the comparison. If a light bulb is radiating in all directions, 100 watts, the same case, by the way, 100 watts in one case and 100 watts in the second case. So in the former case, when you have 100 watts spreading out over a large area, over 100 square meters, when you divide them, the density, the power density is 1 watt per square meter. So that's a low power density. Any given square meter in the room isn't getting that much power. But if you take the same 100 watts and concentrate it over a small area, you get 100 watts per square meter. The power density is higher. It's basically like concentrating the flow of the photons in one area. And it's the power density that's causing steel to be able to be melted or paper to burn or whatever. Because what you do when you concentrate it like that is you're exciting the electrons, you're exciting the atoms with a whole lot more energy, getting them to move and gyrate and release energy as heat that eventually will cause the material to either melt or combust with the available oxygen there. So it's not so much that laser light is special. I mean, it's special because it's a thin beam and all of that. We can focus it a lot smaller so it can get the power density higher. But the photons are not any special. They're just red, photons of that energy in the spectrum, right? It's not that laser light is a special kind of light in the sense that they're all made of photons. They're all made of the same thing. What's going on is laser light is able to be collimated and focused into a tight beam so that we can get the energy density very, very high. And that is why lasers can burn through things, but your regular desk lamp cannot. But if you remember, you probably can take a magnifying glass, go outside, don't do this, you can burn yourself, and you can focus the light from the sun onto a point and you can burn leaves with it. You can actually hurt your hand if you hold your hand under it. Don't do it, it can very much hurt you. All you're doing there is you're taking the sunlight and you're concentrating it over a smaller area. You're increasing the power density. Because it's the same energy coming from the sun that hits the circumference or the surface area of the magnifying glass. All you've done is change the cross-sectional area smaller. You're dividing by a smaller number, so you're making the power density go up, and that's why focusing sunlight is able to burn things as well. Now, to put this into perspective, the sun delivers something about 1,000 watts per square meter on the Earth's surface. So when you use a magnifying glass, what you're doing is you're taking all the sunlight that's hitting the lens, maybe 50 watts spread over the whole lens, and you're focusing it down to a brighter, tinier spot. So you're taking the same wattage, dividing by a smaller area. What happens when you divide by smaller and smaller numbers? When you divide by 0, the thing goes to infinity. So if you divide by something a little bit bigger than 0, a tiny, tiny cross-sectional area, the power density is going up. The density of the power is what can actually do the burning. Just like if you take a jet of water and you spray it in a large fan, it's not going to hurt you. But if you concentrate the same flow rate through a tiny, tiny, diameter of a human hair, that jet of water can cut right through your flesh as well. So that concentrated power density can easily ignite paper or leaves or hurt you if you accidentally touch your skin with it. But here's the catch, it only works at one focal point when you use a magnifying glass and the sunlight. If you move the paper a little bit closer or a little bit farther away from the focus point, the light begins to spread out again, and what does that do? It drops the power density because the cross-sectional area is going up from that focus point. So a magnifying glass is kind of like a one-trick pony. It's brilliant and super, super effective at concentrating at one exact distance, but it's useless at burning anything in any other distance from the focal point. Now, lasers don't have this focusing problem, and that's because laser light is fundamentally different from regular light in three crucial ways. And when I say it's different, I'm not saying the photons are different. Those are the same, but the characteristics of the bulk light beam is different in the following ways. The first thing that makes a laser different is that it's monochromatic, and that means that all of the photons in the beam have the same wavelength. That means the same color. The light from a regular light bulb is kind of like an orchestra where every instrument is playing a different note at the same time. Laser light is kind of like a stadium of people all singing exactly the same note with perfect pitch. Now, I am going to say that the idealized laser is that all of the photons have exactly the same energy, but in real life, when you construct a laser diode like the laser pointer or any other laser system, there's always a very small bandwidth. So the exact energy of every photon can be slightly different, but it's way closer packed in terms of energy, clustered around a singular energy compared to like light from the sun, which is all kinds of photon energies hitting you all at the same time, which is the different colors of the rainbow basically mixed together. So basically, laser light is all one color. That's all that means. Now, secondly, laser light is what we call coherent. And that means that all of those photons are perfectly synchronized. Nothing's ever perfect, but in laser light, they're a lot more synchronized, meaning the crests and the troughs of their waves are rising and falling in lockstep like a precision marching band, kind of. Regular light is more like rush hour traffic with everybody going roughly the same speed, but totally out of sync with the brake lights and the gas. I mean, they're not really get coordinated too much. Now, the real superpower of laser light that makes it different is that it's what we call collimated. And that means that the light travels in an incredibly tight parallel beam that barely spreads out at all. Now, for instance, if you shine a flashlight across a room, you can see the spot growing bigger or smaller, basically. For instance, I have a flashlight here and you can kind of see my hand. If I get closer to it, you can kind of see that the beam is relatively small. If I get farther away, you can see the beam is larger and larger and larger. That's because as the beam comes out, it's spreading out, right? Regular light is not collimated. Laser light is focused. It's not perfectly parallel because no system is perfect. In the idealized laser, it would be perfectly parallel with no divergence. But in reality, laser light has a very tiny divergence, but can go very, very far, kilometers, with very, very, very slight spreading of the beam. And that's actually why laser pointers are so dangerous to aircraft, for instance, because I can shine this up at the sky and the beam is going to stay pretty tight over kilometers. That means if I happen to hit an airplane and do not do it, if it goes in the cockpit, it can blind the pilots because the beam is not spreading very much from the ground up to the sky. Now, this collimation is also what makes lasers so easy to focus to microscopic points. So when you focus regular diverging light, you're fighting against its natural tendency to spread out. When you focus already parallel laser light, you can squeeze it down to incredibly small spots, just a few micrometers or microns across. That's smaller than a red blood cell. Basically, you can focus laser light way smaller than you can regular light. That's how you get those insane power densities capable of cutting through steel. Because remember, if you focus the same power over a smaller and smaller spot, you're almost dividing by zero, getting the power density not literally to infinity, but very, very high. So for instance, a 1,000-watt laser can be focused down to a spot 1/10 of a millimeter across. That would deliver something like 100 billion watts per square meter power density. For context, that's hotter than the surface of the sun concentrated on a point smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. So basically, that's why lasers can cut stuff. You can focus a very tight beam to a small area, but how do you actually make this special kind of light if it's made of the same photons? So the word laser is an acronym. It stands for light amplification by the stimulated emission of radiation. And here's how it works. Inside a laser, you have what's called a gain medium. Now, this gain medium could be a crystal, like a ruby or something. It could be a gas, like helium gas or neon gas. It could even be a special kind of liquid. There are many kinds of lasers. What you do is you pump energy into this medium, usually with electricity or some other light source adding energy to the medium. What that does is it excites the atoms in that medium up to a higher energy state. Now, normally when the electrons in the excited energy state like that decay back down in those excited atoms, it would release photons randomly in all directions, some this way, some this way, some this way. But in a laser, when one photon is released, what it does is it triggers a nearby excited atom to release its photon in perfect sync with the one that came and triggered it to begin with. Same wavelength, same direction, same phase. This is called stimulated emission. So the stimulated emission is basically triggering a cascade of other photons with similar characteristics. Now this is the crucial part that brings it all together. In a laser, the cavity wherever this thing is happening has mirrors on both sides. One mirror is fully reflective, which bounces the photons. The other mirror is only partially reflective, letting some of the photons through. The photons bounce back and forth between the special cavity, and that triggers more and more and more photons to be stimulated and stimulated emission, making more photons of the same phase and color, and that builds up basically in an avalanche of perfectly synchronized photons. And the size of this cavity needs to be very specially constructed to allow this to happen. So when the light builds to a sufficient intensity from all of the stimulated emission there, some of the light can actually leak through the mirror that's only partially reflective and exit the device. That's your laser beam. Every photon is then marching in formation as it exits the device. Now, different materials absorb different wavelengths better or worse. Now, that's why industrial cutting equipment often has lasers that are actually using infrared light, something about 1064 nanometers in wavelength, because metals absorb this wavelength efficiently, good for cutting metals. But medical lasers, on the other hand, might use a totally different wavelength that target water in tissue because the human body is mostly water, or specific pigments in the skin. The military's laser weapon system can deliver hundreds of kilowatts in a beam that stays focused over many kilometers, enough to burn through a drone hull or disable sensors on some device they're trying to target in the sky. But I think what actually makes modern lasers really awesome is the engineering precision required to even make them. We kind of take them for granted. We're talking about maintaining atomic level alignment in these mirrors that are in the laser cavity, controlling materials all the way down to parts per billion, and synchronizing photons that oscillate trillions of times per second here in the device. The fact that we can buy a simple laser pointer for $5 or $10 is a testament to how far this technology has come. So the next time you see a laser cutting a piece of metal, or you watch a laser light show, remember you're witnessing one of humanity's cleverest tricks, taking ordinary light and teaching it to march in perfect formation in a tight beam, concentrating the gentle warmth of photons, so to speak, into a beam that rivals the sun's fury. And as you ponder this, always remember to stay curious. Learn anything at mathandscience.com.